Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. It's time for another team season preview, and this time we are covering the New York Jets. I am, as ever, your host Andy, and with me today I've got a returning guest, our resident Jets fan on the podcast. Back with us today is Olivia. Olivia, how are you? How are things?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, all good. I can't really complain. Going to the Olympics in a couple of days.
Wow.
That's exciting. So got a week there. Looking forward to that. At the moment, doing the basketball and the football, but we
Nice.
may delve into other activities. We're thinking about buying more tickets just because stuff that were there, we may as well make the most. But
Absolutely.
yeah, we bought these tickets literally a year. I think it was May last year. We bought the tickets for the basketball and the football. Turns out we're getting, I think it's like Italy against the Philippines or something, or South Sudan. And I think we get to see Serbia, which is good because Jokic will be playing. But
Nice.
yeah, the teams aren't going to be great. And we were trying to get Team USA, but it's an impossible ticket to find.
Yeah.
It's either you can't get it or you're paying 600 quid on like a really unreliable website. So it's we're going to hope that, eventually something comes up, someone's sells at last minute, or there's a competition available in the fan zone or something like that. But but looking forward to it. A week in France, a week in the sun, which is unlike what's been like in the UK. Really, I find the UK's been mostly a bit wet and cold, isn't it? And I'm sure your end of the woods, I'm sure it's been even more colder and wet.
Very much so. It's very rarely not wet and cold in the northeast of England. Take from that what you wish.
Yeah, no, definitely not. The warmest conditions in the UK anytime, but yeah, northeast is notorious for wet and cold. Only really Scotland that probably tops it for that. But we are here to talk all things New York Jets, of course. The reason this podcast is on today, and I want to run through just some ins and outs. So the ins include the likes of Hassan Reddick, Tyron Smith, Mike Williams, and Tyrod Taylor, as well as re-signing the likes of Solomon Thomas, Greg Zuerlein, and Thomas Morstead. And if I've missed it out, I do apologise. Main outs include Zach Wilson via a trade to the Broncos, as well as CJ Uzama and Laken Tomlinson. And draft, you took Penn State offensive tackle Olu Fashanu, 11th overall. And then third round pick, you took Malachi Corley, Western Kentucky wide receiver. Elsewhere, you took Braden Allen, running back out of Wisconsin. 134th overall, Jordan Travis, quarterback out of Florida State. Isaiah Davis, running back out of South Dakota State. Quantez Stiggers out of Toronto Argonauts. That's easy for them to say. And then finally, Jalen Key, safety out of Alabama. 257th overall as a compensatory pick. And I'm looking at the draft now. You had 6 picks in a row that were traded away. You had multiple 6-round picks traded to Philadelphia, Minnesota, and Baltimore, and then one to Denver as well in the 7th round. So, overall for you, Olivia, your take on the team's offseason?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going back into our incomings, are we counting Reddick as an incoming at this point in time?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's one thing I actually forgot to put in the running order was all about him, because he's been there, 20 minutes. He's already wanting a new deal. It seems just crazy to me. He's doing that so quickly into his time at the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it pops up every single year from pretty much every team in the NFL. It is mildly annoying because reports coming out have said that the Jets somewhat agreed a deal with his agent before the trade was made with Philadelphia, and then obviously someone's moved the goalpost. It's always difficult to know what's truly happened behind the scenes, but ultimately he's not budging. The Jets aren't budging. It's like the first week of training camp, and it's not great. It's not great for his bank account either, because I believe it's a 50 grand fine or something absolutely insane for each time you training camp. Do I think it'll be resolved? Yes, but it's just one of those things that every fan finds annoying, where it'll rumble on a little bit, and it could. I think, was it Chris Jones last year who went into the season? I know that's a completely different situation. Obviously, that worked out brilliantly. It's just one of those annoying things. It's that I'll keep an eye out on, but it is what it is. I mean, in terms of the off-season as a whole, I think it's been good. It's been, we definitely needed to do something about the O-line. Trading from Morgan Moses. Well, he was on the Jets a couple of years ago and then kind of went to Baltimore in free agency and now he's back in a trade. I thought that was something that really needed to happen. So good move. Tyron Smith, obviously, a great tackle when he's on the field. So, which kind of explains the Fashanu pick in this year's draft. Not the most glamorous pick in the world, but probably a necessity. And of course, you've got Titman, who's second year, Vera Tucker, who's had some serious injury issues the past couple of seasons. I know we'll talk about the O-line later, but my point is the O-line was the main focus this off-season and we've somewhat addressed it. Who knows how that's going to look like. Mike Williams, wide receiver 2, we definitely needed that. Again, will he stay on the field? Who knows, but it was an attempt at addressing that. Malachi Corley looks good. Is a rookie. How often can you rely on wide receiver 3 rookies to produce good numbers in the first year? So, yeah, I mean, it's good. If I had to give it a number, I'd probably say a 7 out of 10, maybe a 7.5 out of 10. But we'll see.
Well, you mentioned the O-line now. We may as well go into it now. I mean, it was obviously one of the main concerns going into last year, with whether it was just general, whether it was hard knocks. There was a lot of concern about the O-line and protecting Rodgers. Obviously, he only lasted 4 snaps, and obviously the season is pretty much a write-off since then. But obviously, you're hoping that Rodgers will be back to fitness again this year. And yeah, it seems like you've addressed it. How do you see him holding up? Because I think, like any team, you need a good O-line. I can't remember last time a good O-line won a Super Bowl. A bad O-line won a Super Bowl. I mean, Burrow's O-line took him to Super Bowl, but in the end, that was probably costly and him not winning it in the end. So, obviously, you mentioned before there's been a lot of income. You think of draft and free agency and stuff like that. So, yeah, how are you feeling about the O-line, and how do you think that it's going to hold up in what is a tough division? You've got 3 out of 4 teams of playoff contenders this year. How are you feeling about the O-line going into 2024?
Slightly better than last year, I think. Last year we were just decimated by injuries, and that's not me to kind of say, woe is me, the Jets were the only team in the entire NFL to have O-line injuries, because we all know that's not the case. The Becton experiment clearly didn't work. We moved on. He's in Philadelphia now. Kind of a side note, I saw that he threw up 10 times in training camp this year with Philadelphia, which sounds about right. It's sad because he had loads of potential, but injuries, got to him. He just didn't produce. So they had to be ruthless, move on. Same with Tomlinson. It was a great free agency signing on paper when it happened a couple of years ago, but just didn't pan out. And, there's multiple reasons why the O-line has been absolutely shoddy the couple of years. MetLife turf is a excellent answer to that. Quarterback play as well. I know we often talk about the O-line protecting the quarterback, but more often than not, and probably more than what we realise, is good quarterback play helps the O-line as well. So obviously we haven't had the best quarterback player in the world. So that probably hasn't helped things. Coaching probably has not been brilliant either, which we have brought back the same O-line coach. So that doesn't fill me with a great amount of confidence. Injuries, like I said previously, is just it really has ruined us the past couple of years. So, I mean, a lot of things need to go right for the Jets and for Rodgers to be confident in the O-line. Whether that's it's all going to click and this will be the year. I mean, I've burnt one too many times to say, oh yeah, I'm really confident in the O-line. I'm really confident in anything the Jets do at this point. So I'm probably slightly better. I mean, I feel like internally the kind of the guards, potentially centre, will probably be our weakness. But we'll see. I would probably say if I had to rank our O-line, I'd probably say we're looking maybe slightly above average on paper, potentially even good if everyone stays healthy. But I do appreciate that's a big claim. So who knows? As long as Rodgers is upright, that's all I'm trying. That's my standard for this season, I think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the O-line as well probably had a big part in Rodgers' very short stint to Jet last season. And, if the O-line was like the Lions, for example, probably would have been there for the whole season. You mentioned sacks then. I mean, Zach Wilson was the third most sacked quarterback in the NFL, and he only played 12 games. But if you add in as well, so 46 sacks for Zach Wilson. And I actually want to bring to attention of Oliver Kent, who came on the show, and he's talking about how it's not always the O-line's fault a player gets sacked. They say a quarterback, sometimes can take too long to get the ball away and stuff like that. And I've heard since actually, I can't think of a quarterback. Well, it might be Joe Burrow talking about it, or maybe someone else saying it was an inflated sack for a defensive lineman. But if you add in Jack Wilson's sacks, 46, add in Tim Boyle, Simeon, and Rodgers as well, their sack totals, time they were sacked last season, it's an extra 18. So that would make you up to 64, which would be one behind the leader, which is Sam Howell, who got sacked 65 times in 2023. So, yeah, the evidence is there that, the O-line hasn't been great. And people always wonder about what would happen if Aaron Rodgers wasn't injured last season. But I think with those O-line sort of numbers and the amount of time they allowed sacks, I think that Rodgers probably wouldn't have done much even if he had played. But now you've added in the likes of Fashanu in the first round. I think that will, go a long way to helping with that, as well as everyone else we mentioned that's come in this offseason. But we have mentioned him as well many times throughout the show. Aaron Rodgers, of course, he is the headline maker in the Jets. Of course, a lot of talk offseason. Was he going to Jets? Was he not? Is he leaving the Packers? Goes there. Hard knocks happens. 4 plays later in his first game, he's down. Now, he has been creating more negative headlines this offseason once again. And one of them was him not turning up to team facilities, which has caused a lot of stir with people because he talked about before everyone sort of being together and everyone turning up and everyone and so stuff like that. So, with that going on, does that worry you in terms of some of his off-season behaviour, in terms of how that sort of will resonate with the rest of the team?
Honestly, no. And I'll explain for why. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. He's always been like this. Do I agree with a lot of his political views, his outlook on life? Absolutely not. I think he's crazy in part, but that's another topic for another day. In terms of his behaviour with the Jets, I think there's been more positive than negative, and I do totally appreciate that as an outsider, as a non-Jets fan, you'd look at this behaviour and think, wow, what a clown. I think following it carefully and seeing what his teammates are saying and the beat writers are saying, it seems like there's a healthy respect towards Rodgers. And the reason why he actually didn't turn up to not training camp but OTAs, I believe, or the compulsory training before training camp, he went to Egypt. He'd booked this trip and he couldn't change it for whatever reason. This is Aaron Rodgers, who has all the money in the world, and he booked it, and it coincided with a compulsory Jets training session, and he didn't move it. He went to Egypt, he rode on a camel, and he got fined, and that was the story, apparently. And if you want to believe that, I mean, to be fair, I do absolutely believe that. But it seems like it was very much it was talked with Salah. It's Aaron Rodgers. You're not going to say no to him, I guess. So it doesn't really concern me. I think if he was running as vice president at this particular point in time, that would have concerned me a little bit more. It's just a case of, for me, obviously the concern is more towards his health, his ability to be a football player, and he's at training camp, which is the main thing, and he seems to be doing well. I know it's training camp, we take that with a massive heap of salt. I see why, like I said, I see why people do see it as a distraction. It doesn't seem to have caused a rift in the locker room. It very much seems like Aaron is the main person there. So no, it doesn't concern me, but equally, it's hopefully it doesn't interfere with football, but we'll see as the season gets on.
And apologies, more negative Rodgers chat. We all saw the footage of him hobbling in one of the sessions. Does that worry you in terms of, not so much about that, because that could just be a temporary thing, but do you think about the fact he's now 39, 40, he has just come off a massive injury, and even though he was declining, but even with that, he had the yards he had in 2022, his last year at Green Bay, were more than all but 4 of all the Jets seasons in history. So, do you worry about him coming back and being the same player? Do you worry that injury he had last year could go on to this year and potentially him not come back the same player?
I mean, there's always the possibility. I think it'd be naive for me to sit there and think, no, he's going to come back and he's going to be MVP and he's going to, age is just a number. Like, it would be a bit stupid for me to say that those might not be a factor and he'll just bounce back straight away. But equally, I think he is good enough to overcome his injury. Like, how his rehab has gone, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not a doctor, so I do tend to avoid kind of videos of players in general, not just Jets players. Like the clickbait accounts on Twitter, and it's player X is really struggling in training with so and so injury, and I try to avoid that. And it's very much see how it is kind of in the preseason games, and so I'm kind of blocking out the noise. But you're right, it is a massive factor, and it is a huge gamble with the Jets. It's got to pay off. Like, we thought it had to pay off last year, and to an extent, we are suffering from that. Obviously, that massive injury. It's just a waiting game, and there's no way. Like, even if he comes out in preseason and absolutely lights it up, and he has an amazing training camp, and there's all this hype, there's absolutely no way of knowing until that first game in San Francisco, which is quite possibly the worst home game ever for him to make his comeback. So it's a difficult one. Am I concerned? Naturally, yeah, you're going to be. Am I begging, praying to whoever's up there, the football gods, that he makes a full recovery, has a Tom Brady-esque finish to his career? Absolutely, but who knows at this point?
Well, I mean, if he is healthy, I mean, he's got fantastic offense to work with. You think about Wilson, Breece Hall, Mike Williams has come in as well. It's a really good offense they've built, and I think this is why last year on the podcast I had the Jets, winning the Super Bowl, because I felt like the team was that good around, and the defense is spectacular. Robert Saleh, has done brilliant there. I think obviously he has been, obviously dealt a bad hand in terms of the poor quarterback, albeit he drafted Zach Wilson, but then obviously Rodgers comes in. So I feel like if that team can't win double-digit games, if everyone's healthy, then I think Salah could potentially be someone, potentially on the hot seat. I think he's got to worry about that. But more lighter news, Garrett Wilson, new jersey number.
Yes, number 5, his iconic number 5 that he wore at Ohio State. It just looks cleaner. It looks nicer. And we've got new jerseys to go along with his new jersey number.
They're very nice. They're very nice.
Yeah, it definitely is an upgrade. And hopefully they look good in London, which I'm sure we'll talk about a bit later. But that is definitely a positive. Definitely. Going back to his number 5. I like that.
Do you know what? Going back to the jersey thing, I thought your jerseys before the last ones were really good. The ones that were like all the 2010s and 2000s. I'm trying to think. The classic one is obviously the one you got to when you were wearing. It was Mark Sanchez's quarterback making the AFC title game. The ones you had, I think it was Darnold's rookie year before you changed. I thought those were really clean. I thought they were. I don't know why you ever changed those, but these ones are pretty good. These new ones are much better than the ones you had basically for Zach Wilson's entire time as a Jets quarterback.
You know what? I absolutely disagree with you. And it might be a little bit controversial in the Jets fandom. I hated them. I hated the logo. Really? It had a Times New Roman font. If you ever look it back, it's just awful. It looks too 2000s-y. And I know a few older Jets fans have been around a little bit longer than myself will have fonder memories of them than I did. The shade of green was awful. They needed an upgrade, and I don't think we particularly got it with kind of the last ones. And now the new ones. Actually, it's funny you should mention the old ones, because the team have introduced them as classics, which doesn't make sense to me, because last time we wore them was 2019. I'm not sure how a jersey from 2018-19 can be considered a classic, but that's by the by. They're really slick, and we've got the new kind of old school logo, which is really nice. I think that was a good kind of marketing ploy by Nike there. I thought that was a positive of the off season if we're going to have a positive attitude on this pod.
Well, the positive attitudes may come in our final segment, which will be our win-loss tie section. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the format by now, if you are listening for the first time, each guest who comes on predicts their team's record by going through each game and answering with a win-loss tie record. Now, of course, last season wasn't the one you thought you had. Do you by chance remember what your record prediction was last year?
I think I went relatively conservative last year. I say that the hype was real last year. It felt like everyone was hyping us up. I know you did with the Super Bowl prediction, which I mean you came close. Did I? I feel like I went 10-7 last year, but I'm not sure.
I'm just going to get it up now. So the Jets in 2023, they went. If I'm getting the record up now, 7-10. Yeah. You predicted 11-6.
Oh, so I was more positive than I remembered. That's not like me. Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Well, I actually want to ask you. I don't know whether you remember if you did listen to the season prediction episode. Did you know who I predicted for the NFC for them to beat in the Super Bowl? Do you know who that would be? As a guess, this answer will shock you. Who I went for?
The answer will shock me. Oh,
yeah, I went for a really rogue NFC champion.
NFC champ rogue. I'm not sure. I'm going to say Seahawks.
Well, as a Brian Flores fanboy, I went for the Vikings to reach the Super Bowl. Yeah, okay. Which I think maybe if Cousins was there, maybe they would have done something. I just saw with I had this image in my head. I don't know what it was. I had this like image in my head in like February time last year of like Kirk Cousins making a Super Bowl but losing. It was really weird, like epiphany, but that never happened. Both teams failed to make the playoffs.
That's not a wild shout, though. I think when you look back, I mean, there's a lot more people higher on Kirk Cousins than I am. I'm not a fan of his, but I think, like, kind of looking objectively, that wasn't a bad shout, and obviously the injury and everything. I mean, and the NFC North was up in the air last year. With Green Bay, didn't know how Love was really going to be. The Lions were, I think people were hyped on the Lions last year, actually, and obviously that was fulfilled. But they were still, you know, how's Goff going to do? Is he the quarterback? And Chicago's, yeah, I don't think anyone made Chicago. So actually, it wasn't a bad shout. I'll hype you up a little bit on that. I mean, it was a bad shout in retrospect, but at the time, I understand it.
But yeah, no, I'm definitely going to go. I've got my game prediction. It changes all the time. Right now, I've got my game prediction in mind, and I think certainly for one of them, I think I'm going to go very sensible pick. Very, very one. I think I can. Yeah, I'm not going to bet against a certain team ever again. So week 1, you are traveling, as mentioned before, to Santa Clara to take on the 49ers. Win, loss, or tie?
It's very hard to go against the 49ers, I think. Home opener on the road, that's a difficult one. You'd hope they've got some sort of Super Bowl hangover, but you know, it's you can't really say. I'm going to say a loss. I'm going to say a loss there. I think the 49ers are just too good.
Well, the road tour continues in week 2 as you head to Nashville to take on the Titans.
The Titans are a bit of a weird one this year. Obviously, moving on from Derrick Henry, you've got Will Levis in at quarterback, I believe, unless there's a quarterback battle there. I feel like they're definitely a team, new head coach as well. Definitely a team in transition. So I'd expect a win there.
Okay,
Rodgers' first win.
Yeah, I mean that would be a great moment for yourselves as well. You know, if and for Rodgers as well, it'll be after a long 14 months or so, he'll finally get that win in a Jets jersey. Week 3, you're at home for the first time. AFC East battle against the Patriots.
It's got to be a win. It's got if we're not beating the Patriots there, then again they are also a team in transition. If I'm being polite, obviously drafted Drake May high. They'll have high hopes for him. If he starts, it could very well be Brissett starting. But yeah, there's so many holes on that roster. Should be a win.
Yeah, I think they'll a rookie head coach, a rookie quarterback, a team that's in transition. It's not going to be a comfortable season for them. Let's put it that way. Week 4 is again at home, but this time even it is against the Denver Broncos.
Also, quite a strange team this season. Obviously moving on from Russell Wilson. I don't like Sean Payton. He started like kind of a weird beef last season for absolutely no reason. Like,
oh
don't get
my
me
god,
wrong,
I forgot about that. Yeah, the Hackett stuff.
he was right about Nathaniel Hackett. He's not very good, but to call him out for like no reason and then proceed to lose to him was just a bizarre decision on his behalf. And then to have like a relatively poor season, yeah, I don't like him. I'm going to say a win again. I think again another team in a weird transition period for the Broncos. Their uniforms aren't great as well this season, so more reason for us to win.
Although their throwbacks are pretty elite.
Yeah, okay. I'll give
home
them
and away are
that.
terrible, but yeah, the throwbacks are pretty good. Now, a game I'm sure you're very looking forward to in week 5. It's Jets heading to London to take on the Vikings.
Yes.
Now, I can only assume you're going there. What are your plans for also yourself and the Jets fan group? I'm sure will be doing something around the game on that weekend.
Absolutely. So we've actually just announced today that we've managed to secure a Jets pub about 15-minute walk from Tottenham. So we get the whole pub to ourselves. Completely, hate the cliche, but by the fans, for the fans sort of thing. So we're doing kind of big Jets kind of takeover thing. I'm really looking forward to it. It's been a couple of three years since we've been to London with a away team this year, which is good actually in terms of predicting wins or losses because it's a neutral game. Let's be real. So yeah, I have got tickets. Thankfully, Ticketmaster can go to hell. But yeah, I have got tickets. Really looking forward to that one. God, I don't know if anyone was at the Falcons game last time they were at Tottenham.
I was there
When they were the home, and that awful screech. I don't know if they do it in like the States. That screech every time they score a touchdown, horrific. I feel sorry for the Falcons fans if any of them listen. Awful. But yeah, back to the Vikings. I suppose also a team in transition with their quarterback, obviously moving on from Cousins. That was a big decision to the Falcons, actually. Yeah, nice little loop there. So they've got either JJ McCarthy, who is a relatively raw prospect, obviously drafted high, but I think he's still got some refining to do. Or Sam Darnold. So
cool.
so that's quite an interesting storyline because it could be very much so that Darnold is declared the start. I think there's a little bit of a camp battle going on. So going into the London game, you could have a Darnold revenge game. That would be horrific on many levels. Because it's neutral, not in Minnesota, and I think on paper we match up better. I'm going to say that'll be a win. I think that has us 4 wins in a row. I think so. Maybe, yeah, I'm gonna go win. It would be a shame to lose again in front of the Jets on home turf. So yeah, win Jets.
What you said then makes even more a reason why this is, I think, out of the 3 games in London, the best or the most exciting one to look forward to because you've got Aaron Rodgers playing there, you've got Justin Jefferson, and add in the fact you got potentially a Sam Darnold revenge game. I think it's just really exciting. And I still am a big Brian Flores fan. I'm looking forward to seeing his defense sort of on display, and I think you've got everything else. I mean, you've got the whole thing of is it going to be JJ McCarthy? Is it going to be Sam Darnold? Are the Jets going to be good? Is Aaron Rodgers going to play? I think there's so many things. I think just the games in general. You think about rookie quarterback and Drake May could be playing there. The Jags, they play every year there, and then the Bears, of course, Caleb Williams, first overall pick, and a very, very as a personality, very intriguing guy. So it's all round a very good match, a very good 3 games. I think the Germany one is awful. But they got Chiefs. They can't moan. I wish we got Chiefs Dolphins in London. We never get much of that good. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great series all round. I'm hoping to be there. Hoping once again I can get some credentials. Hoping I can once again be there because money was a bit tight when I went to get tickets originally, so I'm banking on. I'm taking the risk that hopefully I'll get media creds. That will be hopefully.
That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, hopefully another fun experience. I'm hoping I can maybe even get to interview Brian Flores. I know Dolphins fans.
Nice.
It ended the bad way, but I've adamant that if he was there now, we'd have won more games because he didn't have Tyreek Hill or Jalen Ramsey when he was there, or Bradley Chubb for that matter. But this isn't a Dolphins podcast; it's a Jets podcast. We will move on to AFC East game in Week 6. You host the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, the Bills have had. I'm not going to use the word transitional again. Don't worry. They've had an interesting off-season, I think, to say the least. Obviously, losing Stephon Diggs, seemingly not by choice. However, they got rid of him in any way they could. And then have lost some really key free agents, I believe. So are they kind of paying the Josh Allen's quarterback bill at the moment? Definitely seems like it. However, it is the Bills. I'm not going to be silly and underestimate them. They're still a very good team. Do I think the Super Bowl contenders this year? I don't think they're as good as the Chiefs. Let's put it that way. But we are due a loss. I have predicted 4 wins on the bounce. Are we due? Should we be winning at home? This is a tough one. I wish draws were more common in the NFL. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to say win. The vibes will be good. Rodgers will have an amazing game of the season, and yeah, we'll beat the Bills at home.
Okay, so Week 7 is a road game. You got 2 in a row. Your first one is against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Also an interesting team at the moment because Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, as we all famously know. But ever since Big Ben retired, it's kind of been a bit not mediocre for the Steelers. That would be harsh because they still have some incredible players. It's kind of been where do they stand? What's their future? It's been a bit up in the air. So I assume Russell Wilson would be the starting quarterback then. Could very easily be Justin Fields though, which would be a very interesting storyline to watch, by the way, just in general going into the season. I'm going to say a loss here. I think it'll be a slogfest. I think their defense will just come out on top. I think it's a terrible place to go. It really does depend on how they're doing at the time as well, though. But I'm going to say we'll take a loss here on the road.
Well, they certainly need it because I don't know whether you've seen their run down the stretch of fixtures. So after they played the Giants, then they got a bye week in Week 9. And after the bye week, I don't think I've seen a crueler set of games than this. Have you seen these fixtures for the Steelers?
I briefly remember kind of the buzz on Twitter, but I couldn't remember kind of what is it? Remind me.
So from Week 10 to Week 18, they've got at the Commanders, at home to the Ravens, at the Browns, at the Bengals, at home to the Browns, at the Eagles, at the Ravens, at the Chiefs, at home to the Bengals. I mean, any year that Mike Tomlin's not going to get a winning record, this is the year, I think. If he's going to not do it, I think this is the year because even the first half of the year, they've got the Cowboys, they've got the Chargers probably too early to be a hard game against them, but they've got yourselves. Like, you could be rocking if your prediction goes to plan. They'll be rocking at this point. They've got the Raiders and the Giants. Yes, the Colts are going to be good. I think if Richardson stays healthy, so they've got an incredibly tough schedule, and I think that I genuinely think they could finish 4th and still get 9 wins. I think they're that good, but I just think if there's any year they win if they don't get a winning record, I think this is the one.
Yeah, agreed with that. That is really difficult. Wow, someone did not like them when they were creating that schedule.
It's just some guy who's tired of hearing about Mike Tomlin's winning record.
Yeah.
Week 8 is your second game of the year against Patriots, but this time in Foxborough.
Yeah, I'm going to take a win. I should never, given history, really go into Foxborough kind of expecting anything. However, if there's a year to do it, I think this year, like we said before, rookie quarterback potentially, rookie head coach. the Belichick era is over. It's finished. You know, it's new. It's new even in New England, and I think he'll start really rocky. And again, holes in roster. We're going to take the sweep over, to use a baseball term. We're going to take a sweep over the Patriots, and yeah, we'll get the win.
Okay, actually, you mentioned baseball. Actually, I forgot to mention you. You went to the baseball recently in the West Ham Stadium. The Mets against the Phillies, if I'm right, was I saying it?
Yes. So I'm a big Mets fan. So when they were announced they were coming over, I had to get tickets. I've never been to a baseball game before, and I'm still relatively new to the game, but I love it. If anyone is just a fan of American sports in general, I would highly recommend it. I don't believe they have a London game next year. I think it's 2026 is the next one. But if you're in the States, visit, like, whether that's for NFL or go to a baseball game if the kind of the season crosses over, which sometimes it does in September, just go. It was really relaxed. It was really fun. The crowds were up for it. I mean, I don't like the Phillies. Obviously, it's Philadelphia, New York sort of thing. But, you know, the fans were really good. Yeah, it was amazing, and the Phillies won the first game, the Mets won the second game in, you know, very, very nail biting, high stakes manner. So yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. I can't recommend going to a baseball game anymore, really. And sometimes you can get tickets really cheap. So if you're in the States, especially kind of 1 p.m. games, you can get tickets for as low as like $5. So maybe a little bit of a travel tip if anyone's thinking about it. Yeah, really good. And baseball's actually a lot quicker than what you think. A lot of people think of baseball as kind of a slow version of rounders, but it's really sped up recently with rule changes. So yeah, I'll wave the flag for baseball on an American football podcast here.
I was actually in London that weekend. The games were on. I was taking my girlfriend there for her birthday as a surprise, and I remember just the tubes and the streets were just. You could see a lot of Phillies jerseys, a lot of Mets jerseys. We were trying to work out, you know, because I didn't know who the teams were at one point in the baseball in the game, so I was trying to work out. Then I thought, oh, I've seen a lot of Mets jerseys. It's probably them. I knew the Phillies were playing. I just didn't know who they were playing against. And I remember just seeing, a wall of Mets jerseys came about on the tube. So we're like, oh, right, it's probably is the Mets playing the Phillies. But and I have got a team. It is the Cubs, but I do find hard to watch on TV. But I said the same thing about the NFL back in 2011, 2010. So, you know, give me a few times watching it, I may maybe swayed, but it's just finding the time to get. I already follow football and NFL on that. It's like having that time, and golf as well. It's having that time to like commit to another sport. But it could be something where I watch. Ice hockey and basketball. I watch just Oilers games hockey, and I watch just certain players playing basketball. So maybe I could do it that way. Maybe just watch Cubs games. But the fact is, over 100 games a season is a bit of a killer. But it's always intrigued me, but I've never really taken to watching it live.
It's good, especially in the summer months. Obviously, we've had the Euros, but kind of the games play at different times, so you can kind of watch a Mets game at 6 p.m. when it's like 1 p.m. And I love ice hockey as well. I'm a big Islanders fan. I saw that live in America. Again, I'll plug ice hockey on an American football podcast. If you're in America, the seasons overlap, so please do, not just New York, just anywhere in America, please do go to an ice hockey game because it is brilliant. It is absolutely fantastic. The atmosphere is great. It's just good vibes, as long as you're winning, of course.
Well, I couldn't believe it when I was in Boston. I went there for game 2019, and within the space of, I was there for 4 days, and there was one NFL game, 2 ice hockey, and 1 basketball game in 4 days. Like,
brilliant, isn't it?
You sometimes see one sporting event in 5 days in Manchester, or you see, in Liverpool, you see one event in 5 days. To have every day, albeit they obviously they're more used to it and all that. But I just couldn't believe how many games there were, and I just that's why the East Coast absolutely craps all over the West Coast. I think from the autumn leaves to the thirst for sports to just everything about it, I love the East Coast, like Chicago, Nashville, Boston, and everything else. I think, and New York, obviously.
New York. I was going to say, and New Jersey as well.
New York.
Dude.
Um,
We'll move on.
Talking of great places, Houston in week 9 travelled to yourselves. Win, loss, or tie?
That's a tough one. Definitely not a team in a transitional period.
No.
Definitely a team who feel like they could challenge the Chiefs this year. Obviously, great rookie year by Stroud. Added Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, some major weapons. They've gone all in, haven't they? But we did beat them last year with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson played a very, very good game, actually.
He's won a year, right?
Yeah, he did. I think he won Player of the Week as well for that. Anyway, very tough game. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd be surprised if that isn't a prime time game. I'd be surprised if that's a 6 p.m. because that would be incredible billing, I think. Although the NFL got burnt last year, putting us on way too many prime time games, but such is life. I'm gonna say a loss. I think it'll be a real matchup and it could go either way. But the Texans look really good. I'm gonna show them a bit of respect. They are probably the most hyped team at the moment, and with good reason. They're really fun to watch. So, yeah, I think they'll get the win. The Jets to take a loss there.
Well, fun fact, that is a Thursday night football game, and it's on Halloween. So there'll sure be a lot of Halloween graphics. I remember, I think the Bengals played the Browns a couple of years ago, and there was quite a few Halloween graphics on the coverage. I'm expecting more of the same in what should be a great game.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's a Thursday night football because they usually because every team has to have a Thursday night game, I think. They usually kind of put the rubbish on the Thursday night. For want of a better term, they usually kind of, they don't massively prioritise Thursday. But no, that'll be a good matchup, I think. I mean, paper, at least.
Yeah, provided no injuries. Yeah. Week 10, you go to Arizona to take on the Cardinals.
The Cardinals are getting a lot of love this offseason. They are building a solid team. Will they be playoff contenders? Potentially. Will they be Super Bowl contenders? I don't think so. I think they're still a couple of years removed. I like Kyler Murray. I think he's a great player. I think he's very fun to watch. But I think we should have enough to beat the Cardinals, I think. So I'm going to say Jets win there.
I agree. I think the Cardinals will improve, but I don't know whether they're going to be a team that's going to fight for playoffs or anything. Maybe playoff, but I don't think they're going to be going for any NFC titles. So, yeah, I think the better they were last year or the year before, but I think you'll be too strong in that one. Before your Week 12 bye, you've got a home game against the Colts.
With the Colts, I think Richardson looked good, but it was a very small sample size. Injury. The thing, I've had beef with the Colts, and I'll tell you why. I just think they've been brilliant at building the most mediocre to slightly good roster, and just no one's criticised them. Like when they've got quarterbacks wrong in the past, it's kind of other teams would have got kind of really, really critiqued in the media and by fans. And I don't know if it's just a market thing or if the Colts are, I don't want to say a little bit irrelevant because they're not. I don't want to get it mixed up, but it just seems like they're always coasting along, and there's just no improvement. I think the GM is vastly overrated, but that's between me and Chris Ballard. I could have a whole podcast on that. But Richardson is really exciting. I am looking forward to that. I think they had a decent draft as well. However, I still don't think they're a playoff team, especially in a division with Jacksonville and the Texans. So I would like a win there, but because I've just said that, and because I've slated the Colts, they'll probably beat us and they'll probably dominate us. But no, I think a win. I think a win.
Well, as a Florida Gators fan, I'm very much the supporter of Anthony Richardson. So I'll be cheering him on for more reasons than one, I think, in Week 11. So after your bye week in Week 12, you've got another home game, but this time against the Seattle Seahawks.
So this is actually our Scotland meetup, which is really fun. We've never done an event in Scotland. So we know the Scottish NFL fans are wild. We love that for them. But getting back on track, the Seahawks are going through a new era, and I think Geno Smith will be the starting quarterback. Will he end the season as starting quarterback? I will put my neck on the line here, and maybe it's a hot take and say he won't be. I think they'll look to move on this year's season, well, next off season. I feel like I've underestimated some of these teams, to be honest, because I'm thinking that should be a win, and I've predicted a lot of wins, and I feel like it's going to come back to haunt me. But go big or go home. Win. I think we're going to we'll win.
All right. Well, this one's not going to be a win as you go to Miami Dolphins in week 14 on the road.
To be fair, yeah, I probably would have said that was a loss. Like,
oh right, okay. I was expecting you to be like, "We're going to win this game. You guys suck" and all that.
No, that would be naive for me. I hate the fact we play the Dolphins so. Do I hate the fact that we play the Dolphins so late into the season? Potentially. I don't know what the Dolphins are going to be. They're like this year. Obviously, last season, pretty good. If we ignore that awful game against the Chiefs, but that necessarily wasn't your fault. I think, will he be playing for a contract? I can't imagine it'll get wrapped up this off-season, or do you think it will? I'm not sure. If he's playing for a contract, I think that could change the dynamics a little bit. Yeah, I still think a loss. I still think Miami a good team. Let's not get cocky. We need to be humbled. So I think Miami will take the win there, especially on the road.
Love that. And you stay in Florida, which is, I imagine, a team probably won't even move. They'll probably stay where they are in Florida. They won't go back to New York, I don't think. Could you take on the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville?
Yeah, they had really disappointing end to their season last year, didn't they? I'm not quite sure what the reason for that was, but Trevor Lawrence signed a massive contract in the off season, which was always going to happen. I don't think there was ever in doubt. Bit of a difficult one for them, well, for us as well. I think they have potential to be tricky. They don't massively scare me, which will come back to bite me again, 100%. I'm going to take the win here. I don't even want to think about these totals. I'm going to take the win, and we'll come out of the Miami trip 1-1. And sorry, my Florida trip 1-1.
Okay. And next up, week 16 is a home game against the LA Rams.
That's a tough one. That's the Rams. That's a great game. Matthew Stafford doesn't show massive signs of slowing down. I know he had a few contract things going on, which I think they might have been resolved. I can't underestimate the Rams. They're a good team. I know Aaron Donald retiring, that's gonna change the dynamics a little bit. But okay, I'm gonna say a loss. I think it'll be close. I think it'll come down to a field goal or something. But based on how many wins I've took before, I'm gonna say we're gonna take a loss on that.
Okay, and that is at the moment a 6 p.m. UK time, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. But with the way they change games later on in the season, expect that to be one of if the season's going the way it's meant to be according to this and how the Rams season I think will go. I think this could be one of the candidates that week to be moved to a prime time slot.
Agreed.
So week 17 is your final road game of the regular season. It's in Buffalo against the Bills.
That's so tough. That is, especially, can you imagine the weather? I mean, in Buffalo there. I'm not sure if you've ever been to Buffalo in December, but I can't imagine it's enjoyable.
No.
Can't imagine it's the greatest place on earth to be. Yeah, I think that's gonna be a tough one to win. I'm gonna say we're gonna take the loss there.
Hey, and then finally week 18, a game that is 2 days before my 30th birthday, and I would love in a dream world to be there, and that is something I'd love to say I could do, but it's whether I have the time and all that to do that.
Yeah.
But that will be an amazing experience. But you are hosting the Dolphins in week 18 in the MetLife Stadium.
So that would be the final game of the season. Is that correct?
Yeah, it'll be 10-6 at this point. So big playoff implications, I'm sure. Could be division.
Well, maybe I was going to say, in an ideal world, we'd be resting starters and we'd be taking that huge L and wearing it with absolute pride. However, I don't think that's the case. I think we pretty much would have had a playoff spot secured by now, but who knows in the NFL. I'm going to say win. I think kind of split the series between the Dolphins. I think that's fair at this point. Or fair, kind of prediction. It'd be nice to end the regular season on the high, and it would be nice to. But I think if at that point, if we had secured the playoffs, I wouldn't care what the result of this team, what this game would be. To secure the playoffs since 2010, so like 14 years, the longest streak in all of American sports, embarrassingly, longest playoff drought, in all of American sports. That would be a great hurdle to get over. But Miami, a good team. I think it'll be close. I think they may be resting starters as well. I think we'll take the win and the season on a high.
Well, that's the thing. I would love to go there, but if I'm going to watch a bunch of backups play for Dolphins, and I kind of think like the idea of going there to be at the game where we win our first AFC East in my time being a fan, and first time since 2008. But it's sort of don't want to jump the gun by almost presuming we're going to win it, because we've proven the last couple of years that you could be 4 games clear of the division with 7 games to go and still lose your division. So yeah, I'm going to probably do it as a last minute thing if it even happens. That'll be the situation, I think. But yeah, that is where we will end the podcast for today. But before we go, actually, sorry, you are going to be 11-6 with your record prediction. So with that, how far would you go in the playoffs if you got there with that record?
That's a really tricky one to predict. 11-6. They're a different beast, aren't they? You could end the season in a horrible form, and some playoffs some players just click. Do I think with Super Bowl contenders? No, I don't. I think I don't want to be miserable. I just think the Chiefs, and I'm sorry to say the C word on this podcast, but I just think it's hard. When they're going for the 3-peat and they've won the past 2, it's hard to look past them, and I'm sure many people will be saying the same thing. We see it every season, though, don't we? It's a stacked AFC. Look at the team. The NFC's weak. Blah blah blah, and it never turns out that way, does it? So, I think it's ambitious, and people might laugh. AFC title game, and we'll lose in Aaron Rodgers, fashion. Yeah, I think AFC title. And to be fair, I'd be heartbroken but happy with that because it means progress.
Yeah, I mean that'd be massive progress. Not only to make the playoffs first time in all these years, but to actually reach the title game for the first time since 2010. That would be quite the season. I think that would surely.
Very much so, yeah.
That would be one of your probably your best season as a fan, right? I don't know whether you were around for the 2010.
No, I wasn't. I was 9/10 for the 2010 season, so definitely not. That would be. I mean, that's banking on a lot of things. Don't get me wrong, and I could look very silly coming back in a year's time, and going through this and think, wow, you really thought that the Jets are going to finish with that record, an AFC title. Wow, how stupid. So yeah, I'm putting my neck on the line a little bit there, but well, like I said, go big or go home. We've got to. You can't be messing around with Aaron Rodgers soon to be carted off into the old pensioners' home. But yeah, you've got to go for it. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Boom or bust, I think is the is the word to use. But yeah, so before we do go in and end the podcast for today, Olivia, if you want to give a chance to plug your own social media as well as plug the for those Jets fans listening and who want to join the UK group, how they can find you on socials as well.
Yep. So if you are a Jets fan or you're just an NFL fan coming to the Jets-Vikings game. You are very welcome to follow us, to join us for all of our festivities at UK NY Jets, and we're also the UK and Ireland New York Jets fan club now. So yeah, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We are a friendly, if not slightly miserable bunch, as expected.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so many years of despair. I can totally see why you would send Jets fans over the edge.
Yeah.
I think Matt Cullen, who's been on the pod before, he was talking about how how sort of drives him to drink watching the Jets because it's so horrific the lack has been the last few years. But I very much enjoyed watching the Jets' performances the last few years. Yeah, not as much as the Bills, their recent lack of success and their near misses, but yeah, equally, I'm never unhappy when the Jets lose, unless it affects the Dolphins somehow.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll accept that for now, anyway.
Yeah. But that is where we'll end the podcast for today. This has been our New York Jets 2024 season preview with, as ever, your host, myself, Andy Davis, with our guest today, Olivia Peebles, our Jets fan, and we'll see you guys for our next team season preview. Take care.